the writer of this article has a brother-in-law who has felt some of his dreams to be of a remarkable and significant character, and his experience shows that there is a strange and inexplicable connection between such dreams and the state of somnambulism. Before giving in detail some instances of somnambulism as exhibited by him and also by his daughter, I will give an account of one of his dreams, which has been 4 times repeated in its striking and salient points at uncertain periods during the past 30 years. He was in his active youth a practical agriculturist, but now lives retired. All his life he has been spare of flesh, active, cheerful, very companionable, and not in any sense what is called a bookworm. His dream was as follows. He found himself alone, standing in front of a monument of very solid masonry, looking vacantly at the north side of it, when to his astonishment, the middle stones on the level of his sight gradually opened and slid down one on another until an opening was made large enough to uphold a man. All of a sudden, a little man dressed in black, with a large bald head, appeared inside the opening, seemingly fixed there by reason of his feet and legs being buried in the masonry. The expression of his face was mild and intelligent. They looked at each other for what seemed a long time, without either of them attempting to speak, and all the while my brother's astonishment increased. At length, as the dreamer expressed himself, the little man in black with the bald head and serene countenance said, "Don't you know me? I am the man whom you murdered in an antenatal state of existence, and I am waiting until you come, and shall wait without sleeping. There is no evidence of the foul deed in your state of human existence, so you need not trouble yourself in your mortal life. Shut me again in darkness." The dreamer began, as he thought, to put the stones in their original position, remarking as he expressed himself to the little man, "This is all a dream of yours, for there is no antenatal state of existence." The little man, who seemed to grow less and less, said, "Cover me over and be gone." At this the dreamer awoke. Years passed away, and the dream was forgotten in the common acceptation of the term, when behold, without any previous thought of the matter, he dreamed that he was standing in the sunshine, facing an ancient garden wall that belonged to a large unoccupied mansion, when the stones in front of it began to fall out with a gently sliding motion, and soon revealed the self-same mysterious person and everything pertaining to him, including his verbal utterances, as on the first occasion, though an uncertain number of years had passed. The same identical dream has since occurred twice at irregular periods. But there was no change in the facial appearance of the little man in black. Our physical senses are the agents by means of which the astral spirit, or conscious something within, is brought by contact with the external world to a knowledge of actual existence, while the spiritual senses of the astral man are the media, the telegraphic wires by means of which he communicates with his higher principles, and obtains therefrom the faculties of clear perception of and vision into the realms of the invisible world. 1. The Buddhist philosopher holds that by the practice of the dhyanas one may reach the enlightened condition of mind, which exhibits itself by immediate recognition of sacred truth, so that on opening the scriptures, or any books whatsoever, their true meaning at once flashes into the heart. Beale's Catena, etc., page 255. If the first time, however, the above dream was meaningless, the 3 following times it may have recurred by the suddenly awakening of that portion of the brain to which it was due, as in dreaming, or in somnambulism. the brain is asleep only in parts, and called into action through the agency of the external senses, owing to some peculiar cause. A word pronounced, a thought or picture, lingering dormant in one of the cells of memory, and awakened by a sudden noise, the fall of a stone, suggesting instantaneously to this half-dreamy fancy of the sleeper walls of masonry, and so on. When one is suddenly startled in his sleep without becoming fully awake, he does not begin and terminate his dream with the simple noise which partially awoke him, but often experiences in his dream a long train of events concentrated within the brief space of time the sound occupies, and to be attributed solely to that sound. Generally, dreams are induced by the waking associations which precede them. Some of them produce such an impression that the slightest idea in the direction of any subject associated with a particular dream may bring its recurrence years after. Tartini, the famous Italian violinist, composed his Devil Sonata under the inspiration of a dream. During his sleep, he thought the devil appeared to him and challenged him to a trial of skill upon his own private violin, brought by him from the infernal regions which challenged Tartini accepted. When he awoke, the melody of the Devil's Sonata was so vividly impressed upon his mind that he there and then noted it down. But when arriving towards the finale, all further recollection of it was suddenly obliterated, and he lay aside the incomplete piece of music. 2 years later, he dreamt the very same thing, and tried in his dream to make himself recollect the finale upon awakening. The dream was repeated, owing to a blind street musician fiddling on his instrument under the artist's window. Coleridge composed in a like manner his poem Kublai Khan in a dream, which, on awakening, he found so vividly impressed upon his mind that he wrote down the famous lines which are still preserved. The dream was due to the poet falling asleep in his chair while reading in Purchas Pilgrimage the following words. Here, the Khan Kublai commanded a palace to be built, enclosed within a wall. The popular belief that among the vast number of meaningless dreams, there are some in which presages are frequently given of coming events is shared by many well-informed persons, but not at all by science. Yet, there are numberless instances of well-attested dreams which were verified by subsequent events, and which therefore may be termed prophetic. The Greek and Latin classics teem with records of remarkable dreams, some of which have become historical. Faith in the spiritual nature of dreaming was as widely disseminated among the pagan philosophers as among the Christian fathers of the Church. Nor is belief in soothsaying and interpretations of dreams, oniromancy, limited to the heathen nations of Asia, since the Bible is full of them. This is what Eliphas Levi, the great modern Kabbalist, says of such divinations, visions, and prophetic dreams. 2. Somnambulism, premonitions, and second sights are but a disposition, whether accidental or habitual, to dream awake or during a voluntary, self-induced, or yet natural sleep. That is, to perceive and guess by intuition the analogical reflections of the astral light. The paraphernalia and instruments of divinations are simply means for magnetic communications between the divinator and him who consults him. They serve to fix and concentrate two wills, bent in the same direction, upon the same sign or object. The queer, complicated, moving figures helping to collect the reflections of the astral fluid. Thus one is enabled, at times, to see in the grounds of a coffee cup, or in the clouds, in the white of an egg, etc., etc., fantastic forms having their existence, but in the translucid or the seer's imagination. Vision seeing in the water is produced by the fatigue of the dazzled optic nerve, which ends by ceding its functions to the translucid and calling forth a cerebral illusion which makes to seem as real images the simple reflections of the astral light. Thus, the fittest persons for this kind of divination are those of a nervous temperament whose sight is meek, weak, and imagination vivid, children being the best of all adapted for it. But let no one misinterpret the nature of the function attributed by us to imagination in the art of divination. We see through our imagination, doubtless, and that is the natural aspect of the miracle. But we see actual and true things, and it is in this that lies the marvel of the natural phenomenon. We appeal for corroboration of what we say to the testimony of all the adepts. And now we give room to a second letter, which relates to us a dream verified by undeniable events. A few months ago, one Babu Jugat Chunda Chatterjee, a sub-deputy collector of Murshidabad in Bengal, was stationed pro tem on duty at Kandy, a subdivision of the Murshidabad district. He had left his wife and children at Berhampuri, the headquarters of the district, and was staying at Kandy with Babu Surji Kumar Basath, sub-deputy collector of the subdivision, at the residence of that gentleman. Having received orders to do some work at a place some 10 miles off from Kandy, in the interior, Babu Jugat Chunda made arrangements accordingly to start the next day. During that night he dreams, seeing his wife attacked with cholera at Berhampuri and suffering intensely. This troubles his mind. He relates the dream to Babu Surji Kumar in the morning, and both, treating the subject as a meaningless dream, proceed without giving it another thought to their respective business. After breakfast, Babu Jugat Chunda retires to take before starting a short rest. In his sleep, he dreams the same dream. He sees his wife suffering from the dire disease acutely, witnesses the same scene, and awakes with a start. He now becomes anxious and, arising, relates again dream number 2 to Babu Surji, who knows not what to say. It is then decided that, as Babu Jugat Chunda has to start for the place he is ordered to, his friend, Babu Surji Kumar, will forward to him without delay any letters or news he may receive to his address from Berhampuri. And having made special arrangements for this purpose, Babu Jugat Chunda departs. Hardly a few hours after he had left, arrives a messenger from Berhampuri with a letter for Babu Jugat. His friend, remembering the mood in which he had left Kandy and fearing bad news, opens the letter and finds it a corroboration of the twice-repeated dream. Babu Jugat's wife was attacked with cholera at Berhampur. On the very night her husband had dreamt of it and was still suffering from it. Having received the news sent on with a special messenger, Babu Jugat returned at once to Berhampuri, where immediate assistance being given, the patient eventually recovered. The above was narrated to me at the house of Babu Lal Kauri Mukherjee at Berhampur, and in his presence by Babus Jugat Chunda and Surji Kumar themselves, who had come there on a friendly visit, the story of the dream being thus corroborated by the testimony of one who had been there, to hear of it, at a time when none of them ever thought it would be realized. The above incident may, I believe, be regarded as a fair instance of the presence of the ever-watchful astral soul of man, with a mind independent of that of his own physical brain. I would, however, feel greatly obliged by your kindly giving us an explanation of the phenomenon. Babu Lal Kauri Mukherjee is a subscriber to the Theosophist and therefore this is sure to meet his eye. If he remembers the dates, or sees any circumstance omitted or erroneously stated herein, the writer will feel greatly obliged by his furnishing additional details and correcting, if necessary, any error I may have made after his consulting with the party concerned. As far as I can recollect, the occurrence took place this year, 1881. Navin K. Sarman Banerjee, FTS. Editor's note. Dreams are interludes which fancy makes, Dryden tells us. Perhaps to show that even a poet will make occasionally his muse subservient to stylistic prejudice. The instance as above given is one of a series of what may be regarded as exceptional cases in dream life, the generality of dreams being indeed but interludes which fancy makes. And it is the policy of materialistic, matter-of-fact science to superbly ignore such exceptions, on the ground, perchance, that the exception confirms the rule. We rather think to avoid the embarrassing task of explaining such exceptions. Indeed, if one single instance stubbornly refuses classification with strange coincidences, so much in favor with the skeptics then, prophetic or verified dreams would demand an entire remodeling of physiology. As in regard to phrenology, the recognition and acceptance by science of prophetic dreams, hence the recognition of the claims of theosophy and spiritualism, would, it is contended, carry with it a new educational, social, political, and theological science. Result: science will never recognize either dreams, spiritualism, or occultism. Human nature is an abyss which physiology and human science in general has sounded less than some who have never heard the word physiology pronounced. Never are the high senses of the Royal Society more perplexed than when brought face to face with that insolvable mystery, man's inner nature. The key to it is man's dual being. It is that key that they refuse to use, well aware that if once the door of the additum be flung open, they will be forced to drop one by one their cherished theories and final conclusions, more than once proved to have been no better than hobbies, false as everything built upon, and starting from false or incomplete premises. If we must remain satisfied with the half explanations of physiology as regards meaningless dreams, how account in such case for the numerous facts of verified dreams? To say that man is a dual being, that in man, to use the words of Paul, there is a natural body and there is a spiritual body, and that therefore he must of necessity have a double set of senses, is tantamount in the opinion of the educated skeptic to uttering an unpardonable, most unscientific fallacy. Yet it has to be uttered, science notwithstanding. Man is undeniably endowed with a double set, with natural or physical senses, these to be safely left to physiology to deal with, and with subnatural or spiritual senses belonging entirely to the province of psychological science. The Latin word sub, let it be well understood, is used here in a sense diametrically opposite to that given to it in chemistry, for instance. In our case, it is not a preposition, but a prefix as in subtonic or sub-bass in music. Indeed, as the aggregate sound of nature is shown to be a single definite tone, a keynote vibrating from and through eternity, having an undeniable existence per se, yet possessing an appreciable pitch, but for the acutely fine ear 3. So the definite harmony or disharmony of man's external nature is seen by the observant to depend wholly on the character of the keynote struck for the outer, by inner man. It is the spiritual ego or self that serves as the fundamental base, determining the tone of the whole life of man, that most capricious, uncertain and variable of all instruments, and which more than any other needs constant tuning. It is its voice alone, which like the sub-bass of an organ underlies the melody of his whole life. Whether its tones are sweet or harsh, harmonious or wild, legato or pizzicato. Therefore, we say, man, in addition to the physical, has also a spiritual brain. If the former is wholly dependent for the degree of its receptivity on its own physical structure and development, it is, on the other hand, entirely subordinate to the latter, inasmuch as it is the spiritual ego alone, and accordingly, as it leans more towards its two highest principles, or towards its physical shell, that can impress more or less vividly the outer brain with the perception of things purely spiritual or immaterial. Hence, it depends on the acuteness of the mental feelings of the inner ego, on the degree of spirituality of its faculties, to transfer the impression of the scenes its semi-spiritual brain perceives, the words it hears and what it feels, to the sleeping physical brain of the outer man. The stronger the spirituality of the faculties of the latter, the easier it will be for the ego to awake the sleeping hemispheres, arouse into activity the sensory ganglia and the cerebellum, and to impress the former always in full inactivity and rest during the deep sleep of man with the vivid picture of the subject so transferred. In a sensual, unspiritual man, in one whose mode of life and animal proclivities and passions have entirely disconnected his fifth principle or animal, astral ego, from its higher spiritual soul, as also in him whose hard physical labor has so worn out the material body as to render him temporarily insensible to the voice and touch of his astral soul. During sleep, the brains of both of these men remain in a complete state of anemia or full inactivity. Such persons rarely, if ever, will have any dreams at all, least of all visions that come to pass. In the former, as the waking time approaches and his sleep becomes lighter, the mental changes beginning to take place, they will constitute dreams in which intelligence will play no part, his half-awakened brain suggesting but pictures which are only the hazy, grotesque reproductions of his wild habits in life. While in the latter, unless strongly preoccupied with some exceptional thought, his ever-present instinct of active habits will not permit him to remain in that state of semi-sleep, during which consciousness beginning to return, we see dreams of various kinds, but will arouse him at once, and without any interlude to full wakefulness. On the other hand, the more spiritual a man, the more active his fancy, and the greater probability of his receiving in vision the correct impressions conveyed to him by his all-seeing, his ever-wakeful ego. The spiritual senses of the latter, unimpeded as they are by the interference of the physical senses, are in direct intimacy with his highest spiritual principle, and the latter, though per se quasi-unconscious part of the utterly unconscious, because utterly immaterial absolute five, yet having in itself inherent capabilities of omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence, which as soon as the pure essence comes in contact with pure sublimated and, to us, imponderable matter, imparts these attributes in a degree to the as pure astral ego. Hence, highly spiritual persons will see visions and dreams during sleep, and even in their hours of wakefulness. These are the sensitives, the natural-born seers, now loosely termed spiritual mediums, there being no distinction made between a subjective seer, a neuropnological subject, and even an adept one who has made himself independent of his physiological idiosyncrasies, and has entirely subjected the outer to the inner man. Those less spiritually endowed will see such dreams but at rare intervals, the accuracy of the latter depending on the intensity of their feeling in regard to the perceived object. Had Babu Jugat Chanda's case been more seriously gone into, we would have learned that, for one or several reasons, either he or his wife was intensely attached to the other, or that the question of her life or death was of the greatest importance to either one or both of them. One soul sends a message to another soul, is an old saying. Hence premonitions, dreams, and visions. At all events, and in this dream at least, there were no disembodied spirits at work, the warning being solely due to either one or the other, or both of the two living and incarnated egos. Thus, in this question of verified dreams, as in so many others, science stands before an unsolved problem, the insolvable nature of which has been created by her own materialistic stubbornness and her time-cherished routine policy. For either man is a dual being, with an inner ego 6 in him, this ego the real man, distinct from and independent of the outer man proportionally to the prevalency or weakness of the material body. An ego, the scope of whose senses stretches far beyond the limit granted to the physical senses of man. An ego which survives the decay of its external covering, at least for a time, even when an evil course of life has made him fail to achieve a perfect union with its spiritual higher self. That is, to blend its individuality with it, the personality gradually fading out in each case. Or the testimony of millions of men embracing several thousands of years. The evidence furnished in our own century by hundreds of the most educated men, often by the greatest lights of science. All this evidence, we say, goes to naught. With the exception of a handful of scientific authorities, surrounded by an eager crowd of skeptics and sciolists, who, having never seen anything, claim, therefore, the right of denying everything the world stands condemned as a gigantic lunatic asylum. It has, however, a special department in it. It is reserved for those who, having proved the soundness of their mind, must of necessity be regarded as impostors and liars. Has then the phenomenon of dreams been so thoroughly studied by materialistic science that she has nothing more to learn, since she speaks in such authoritative tones upon the subject? Not in the least. The phenomena of sensation and volition, of intellect and instinct are, of course, all manifested through the channels of the nervous centers, the most important of which is the brain. Of the peculiar substance through which these actions take place, a substance the two forms of which are the vesicular and the fibrous. The latter is held to be simply the propagator of the impressions sent to or from the vesicular matter. Yet while this physiological office is distinguished or divided by science into three kinds, the motor, sensitive, and connecting, the mysterious agency of intellect remains as mysterious and as perplexing to the great physiologists as it was in the days of Hippocrates. The scientific suggestion that there may be a fourth series associated with the operations of thought has not helped towards solving the problem. It has failed to shed even the slightest ray of light on the unfathomable mystery. Nor will they ever fathom it unless our men of science accept the hypothesis of dual man, the Theosophist, January 1882. H.P. Blavatsky,